Hare Krishna devotees, welcome for ISKCON West, outpost of ISKCON Seshadripuram for the Sunday evening program. So we have been discussing Srimad Bhagavad Gita for a couple of past couple of years in this particular forum. So today we will be discussing 6th chapter, 2nd verse. I don't know if maybe 3rd verse also. I don't know. We will just see how it goes. 6th chapter is entitled Dhyana Yoga. We will start off with the 2nd verse to begin with and then see how it goes from there. Share the screen. Okay. Yam sannyasam iti prahur yogam tam vidhi pandava nahi asan yasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. Yam sanam vidhi pandava nahi asanyastha sankalpo yogi bhavanti kaschana. Yam sannyasam iti prahur yogam tam vidhi pandava nahi asanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. Word by word meaning. Yam, what? Sannyasam, renunciation. Iti, thus. Prahur, they say. Yogam, linking with the Supreme. Tam, that. Vidhi, you must know. Pandava, O son of Pandava. Pandu, na, never. He, certainly. Asanyasta, without giving up. Sankalpaha, desire for self-satisfaction. Yogi, a mystic transcendentalist. Bhavanti, become. Kaschana, anyone. Translation. Whatever is called renunciation, or rather what is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme. O son of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Real sannyasa yoga or bhakti means that one should know his constitutional position as the living entity and act accordingly. The living entity has no separate independent identity. He is the marginal energy of the Supreme. When he is entrapped by material energy, he is conditioned. And when he is Krishna conscious or aware of the spiritual energy, then he is in his real and natural state of life. Therefore, when one is in complete knowledge, one ceases all material sense gratification or renounces all kinds of sense gratificatory activities. This is practiced by the yogis who restrain the senses from material attachment. But a person in Krishna consciousness has no opportunity to engage his senses in anything which is not for the purpose of Krishna. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is simultaneously a sannyasi and a yogi. The purpose of knowledge and of restraining the senses as prescribed in the jnana and yoga process is automatically served in Krishna consciousness. If one is unable to give up the activities of a selfish nature, then jnana and yoga are of no avail. If one is unable to give up the activities of a selfish nature, then jnana and yoga are of no avail. The real aim is for a living entity to give up all selfish satisfaction and to be prepared to satisfy the Supreme. A Krishna conscious person has no desire for any kind of self enjoyment. He is always engaged for the enjoyment of the Supreme. One who has no information of the Supreme must therefore be engaged in self satisfaction, because no one can stand on the platform of inactivity. All purposes are perfectly served by the practice of Krishna consciousness. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurvulminitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patithanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hari Om Tat Sat. I'll read the translation once again. What is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme. O son of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. So here, the definition of yogasana is given very clearly. There's no two things about it, right? It's very clearly given. Yam sannyasam iti prahur yogam tam vidhi pandava. Sannyasam means renunciation, to give up something. Sannyasam. And here it's yogam is said linking with the Supreme. We always say to connect, to link with the Supreme, not link with nothing, link with the Supreme. When there is nothing, then how can you link with some nothing? You know, that logic itself is somewhere doesn't make sense. So if you are saying linking, you have to link with something, not with nothing, right? You know, when you say I link with something or meditate on nothing, that doesn't make sense. Linking means you have to connect with something, not with nothing. Linking with the Supreme. Tam, that vidhi, you must know Pandava. So that means what he is saying? Linking or yoga means sannyasa. Sannyasa means renunciation. So two things are given. One is what is the real meaning of yoga, to link with the Supreme. And second, what does doing yoga equate to? It equates to renunciation. So that is important. And he says, without giving up, asanyasta. You know, sannyasa means renunciation. Asanyasta means not renouncing, without giving up. Sankalpaha, desire for sense satisfaction. Yogi, a mystic transcendentalist, becomes Kaschana. Bhavanti, anyone cannot become a yogi if he does not give up. That is the meaning. That means one who is able to give up sense gratification, he is called a practitioner of yoga, or rather, that is the purpose of this yoga. And yoga definition is means linking with the Supreme. Therefore, to link with the Supreme, you have to disconnect with the senses. Connect with the Supreme, disconnect with the senses. That is what it is defined. And anyone who is trying to satisfy his senses, then he cannot be called a yogi. That's the second aspect of it. He cannot be called a yogi. He can never become a yogi if he is trying to gratify his senses. Or anyone who is trying to gratify his senses cannot practice yogasana. Or yogasana is not meant to gratify your senses. You can, differently put it. But the point remains, yoga is for linking with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and to delinking with the material consciousness. So that's clearly the definition of yoga. So we have always been saying, right, sometimes we always say, okay, we say so many things and say we are not against yoga. So it's not against yoga. It's about the understanding of yoga, because the wrong conception of yoga is what we are always against. And we try to keep bringing it up, because the wrong conception is what is promoted today by so many so-called various institutes of yoga, and trying to make people more and more pulled into materialistic thing, or giving wrong conception of this linking process, trying to equate it to shunya. That means impersonalism, that there's nothing called a Supreme. So that is what is the point, that yoga means it is for renunciation. So what is this point important about? Again, we keep discussing this again and again and again, but the point is, we need to understand why we are discussing again and again and again, because how many ever times we discuss, we are not able to get it. See, this is the whole process. That entire life is all about self-realization. How many ever times we discuss, how many ever times we think, the minute we stop, we go back the next second, or even as we are thinking about it, we are thinking about the bodily conception of life. So that is so much conditioning that is there in our body, and therefore we need to decondition. To decondition means to repeatedly keep saying this. So many times we say, when you have to memorize something, what do you say? You keep on writing the same thing again and again, right? You have to say, you keep writing, it will register in your mind. The same thing, the more you keep saying, memorization means you keep saying so many times, it memorizes. It sort of gets embedded in our head. And even if you are asked during your sleep, you are able to immediately answer. But you are able to say that because you have sort of kept on repeating it again and again and again and again, and then it sort of got written in our head, and then we are able to understand, okay, because there's so much of conditioning which has happened, which is actually writing the other way around. The fact remains that we are not the body, we are the soul, but we have been writing in so many janmas that we are the body. In so many different bodies, we have been writing this, I am the body, I am the body, I am the body, I am the body, I have tagged for this body, I am the body, I have tagged for this body. And in so much of writing, now to get that out, we need to rewrite that whole thing by writing the correct thing into our head. So this is the entire process of spiritual life, of devotion, start off by calling spiritual life, of trying to understand the self, and that naturally leads to what is that self? Is it something in isolation? That comes into the question. So that in that point of view, it is mentioned that the living entity has no separate independent identity. That means when you call yourself a soul, that definition is very clearly there. What is the soul comprising of? It is clearly mentioned that it is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when something is part and parcel, then it is naturally supposed to be, should I call it serving? Sometimes when we say serve, we feel bad. Oh, how can I be a servant? We should say at least subordinate, just like the hand is subordinate to the whole body. It is not like independent. It is to serve. It cannot be independent. The minute a hand is trying to be independent, it has no value to the body. It has to serve. The more it serves nicely, then the hand is glorified. if it is not serving that body, then what is the point of the hand being there? Like this, we are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore naturally it is best in our interest to serve the Lord. Otherwise, we are not part of that body, or in other words, we are one of the rejected portions of that body, which we know what are those, and nobody likes those rejected portions of the body. We can even call it a stool, something which is of no use within the body, which is thrown away or which is disconnected from the body, which is something which is not very nice to see, nice to smell, nice to associate with. Nothing. Nobody wants anything to do with such. But anything which is connected with the body, everybody wants to associate. Wow, right from the face to the leg, people even glorify the toes and, the nails. You see, if you are a very nice poet, you will, so many people glorify about there is more particularly when you talk about this scripture, not scriptures, so many these, what do you call these, literatures which are talking about love. You will see this fellow will talk so much about the nail being like a moon. I will say so many things that is being talked. But all of that, as long as that is within that body, the minute that nail goes off the body, nobody will talk about that nail being like a moon, right? It's something to be put in the dustbin. So the point that we need to understand, therefore, is only when it is connected with the body, there is so much of nicety about that particular product. And we, being part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how much ever beautiful we look, or how much ever intelligent we look at, or how much ever powerful we look at in isolation, if it is not in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is as good as those cut nail, But we may think, oh, this is great, but in reality, it has no significance or no value whatsoever. So, that definition of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of what it is, what the soul is, Jivera Swarupa Voi, Krishnera Nityadas. That means Jiva's Swarupa, or what is the original position or constitutional situation, or what is the real Jiva, what is the real figure of the Jiva, is Krishnera Nityadas. That means a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's very simple when you say you are part and parcel of the Lord. So in that sense, if that is not connected to the body, then it is not anything nice. And therefore, this entire process of removing, deconditioning is to actually come and situate in that consciousness and forget the consciousness that I am the body. And therefore, it requires that linking process, linking back to Godhead, and for which one of the means applied is this yoga. And as we are clearly seeing, yoga means renunciation. You have to renounce the body, but hanker for the source of the body, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is basically what is the purpose of yoga, and it is also the qualification for yoga. Therefore, if we are not having an intention to take up yogasana for the purpose of renunciation, then it is some kind of a gymnastics of really no significance whatsoever. That's very, very, very clear to be in our mind. We need to be very clear about it. So Prabhupada also is writing that this body is basically the jiva is basically, when we say part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what is meant is technically this is basically one of the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We know there are these three different energies of the Supreme Lord. One is the internal potency. That means one which is very, very closely connected, which is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the internal potency from which is made of the spiritual, from which is made the spiritual world, and all the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Radha Rani, and all the very close associates or servants of Krishna. They are all actually part of the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Or I don't know if I can even say this, Nitya Siddhas. They are all part of that internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then there is this marginal energy, Tatasya Shakti. That is the middle portion, the marginal energy, which is not internal, but it is neither also internal, but it is in between. If something is internal means then the opposite of it is external. But between these two, there is something called marginal, and that is called the energy with which these jivas are actually made of. Basically, it is the energy of the Supreme Lord, which is basically marginal energy, and therefore it has the ability to either fall into this internal side or to the external side. The external one is this inferior energy, which is basically the material manifestation of the Lord, which is basically the various planetary systems and anything to do with the conditioned world. That is all the inferior energy of the Lord. That is also energy of the Lord, but it is, of course, it is inferior. And this marginal energy has to be very clear what he has to do. Unfortunately, whoever has taken a birth in this material world for whatever reason originally and then subsequently in the conditioned state, we are all caught up in this marginal energy and thinking ourselves to be the inferior energy. But you are not inferior energy, you are actually marginal energy who has an actual real happiness in being with the other side, which is the internal energy of the Supreme Lord. But sometimes know, at least here, whoever of us who are here, who are caught up in this bodily conception, we are all caught up in the wrong side, which is the inferior energy. Now, naturally, when something is wrong, you have to set it right. That's very simple, common sense thing. Then the idea of setting it right is called in this concept, idea of self-realization. This is what spiritual life is all about. Something is wrong, I want to set it right, and I understand this wrong means I have wrongly identified myself with the body. Therefore, what do? I needed to set it right to understand I am actually the pure spirit soul, and I should be associated with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and everything and anything which is connected to his internal potency. And then this process of yoga is there to link back to that original constitutional position of the Lord. Then is what is he saying? When he is entrapped by material energy, he is conditioned, and when he is Krishna conscious or aware of the spiritual energy, then he is in his real natural state of life. So it's simple. In which side of the coin you are? If you are here, you are liberated. Here means when you are towards the internal potency of the Supreme Lord, you are liberated. You are in the inferior energy of the Supreme Lord, you are actually caught up in this conditioned state of life. And we need to just first understand that and then make the choice. We have this independence. With that independence, what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to make the right choice. That's what it is. Therefore, when one is in complete knowledge, one ceases all material sense gratification or renounces all kinds of sense gratificatory activities. Therefore, when one is fully in knowledge, one is very clear, yes, I am part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I am pure consciousness or pure soul represented by this consciousness and not represented by the body. Yes, represented by the body, of course, yes, but that is not the true identity. I am actually a pure spirit soul. When one is situated, naturally, he will act in that platform, right? If I know, but if I act in the wrong platform, that is foolishness. A policeman, when he's there in that police uniform, or when he, even otherwise, a policeman, when he's even recruited to be a policeman, then naturally his basic trait is what do you call truthfulness, right? The policeman will never is never supposed to be crook. That is basic qualification for someone to even desire to be a policeman. If he's a crook in his mind, his desire to become a policeman is completely contradictory. It cannot happen. It should not happen. Today everything is happening. That's a different story. But that's very common logic, intelligence, right? You cannot, you are not suitable for that. So in that, like that, if you are understanding that I am spirit soul, then naturally what will you have to do with the material existence? That means with this bodily existence. Bodily existence is fine, but the sense gratification, that means gratifying this body, thinking that is happiness, basically gratifying the body is the only happiness that we have, and that is the purpose of this life, one who thinks like that. Therefore, This is practiced by the yogis who restrains the senses from material attachment. Therefore, to come to that practice, a yogi is supposed to restrain from sense gratification. That's why we said the other day when we talked, we said it starts with brahmacharya. A yogi has to be a complete brahmacharya. If he is not a brahmachari, then everything else is show business. But now I am trying to do something, but I am not that anyway. I have no inclination towards that. So these are basic qualifications. Just like today I gave this example. If that policeman does not have this inclination to be honest, that's the right word I missed actually. Honest, then he cannot be a policeman. But if he is still trying to be a policeman, we know he's still a crook only. He's not a policeman. He may wear a dress like a policeman, but he's actually a crook. And many of those policemen get exposed and also go into the bar, prison bar, right? Go behind the prison bars. So then there's no question. Then we know whether he's a real policeman or he's actually a crook. So, but in reality, a yogi means one who should try to connect with the Lord and who should aim, at least the ultimate aim is to renounce completely. There are different processes, as nicely Kapil Prabhu explained the other day. That doesn't mean when you are practicing yoga, I'm not saying therefore, you should be in that. Then you can say, okay, you are also saying bhakti, but you are not a true, real devotee, like to the core. Yeah, we are also trying to practice. So like that, we are also yogis, we are trying to practice. I am perfectly with you when you say that. But if you do not even understand why you are doing yoga, that's where the problem is. If people are thinking yoga is for, something else, that's the problem. But if they know yoga is for the purpose of coming to the point of full renunciation, and I start off with the basic, there are different levels, this dharana, so many things are there we talked about. So you start off with do's and don'ts, and then you go up to further things like that. So the basic things, asanas, you start how to, there's always a starting point, right? Okay, you simply sit there, and then, you think that, I should restrain myself from doing anything or thinking anything. Let me just restrain myself and sit in that posture to practice this thing of trying to disassociate with matter, right? That's the point. I want to keep talking all the time some nonsense. Now let me sit in the yogic posture, close my eyes and restrain myself from talking any nonsense. So you are disassociating with that material contact and your mind is going and thinking so many nonsense. So I want to disassociate with all that nonsense. So let me just sit there and not focus on anything. Let me try to keep my mind blank. These are steps. But the ultimate aim is not to keep it blank. The ultimate aim is to now I remove all the nonsense and then I start thinking about the substance, not nonsense, substance. So this is the process. So if we are clear with that when you go into the first class of yoga, then okay, right? It makes sense. This is the process, but your ultimate aim is to connect to the Lord, not to ultimately connect to nothing. That's not what is being taught. Or even more so, to think this will help me make my senses much more stronger so that I can engage even more strongly into sense gratification. So that's the point that we need to make. And then, but a person in Krishna consciousness has no opportunity to engage his senses in anything which is not the purpose of Krishna, which is not for the purpose of Krishna. So now here we come to the more practical application of it, right? So here Prabhupada is giving the other side of it, but on the other hand, when you are taking up bhakti process, here that whatever thing is already achieved in this process, right? Because when you do bhakti, that bhakti is actually serving someone, right? We have also seen the definition of bhakti the other day. Maybe I will just recall here more precisely. Bhakti, when we say, it means what is that? Anukulyena Krishna Anusilanam. Anukulyena Krishna Anusilanam. That means favorably serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what? Without having, what is that? Without having any sense gratification or desire for self, neither having any speculation or impersonalist conception. That is the three things. So bhakti, what is that said? That start? Can someone start the verse? Anyabhilashita shunyam. Anya abhilashita shunyam. Anyabhilashita shunyam. Jnana karmavi anavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam. All this is what? Bhaktir uttamam. Uttamam means is the highest. Bhaktir means, so this is the qualification of bhakti. Highest qualification of bhakti is one should be Krishnanusilanam, not Shila, on the wide Shilanam, not like that. Or Shilanam on some tree or some whatever. No, it's Krishnanusilanam. And how? Anukulyena, that means with favorable mood. And leaving up the other three aspects or four aspects. So this is the actual definition of bhakti. So when one takes to bhakti, then this process is already in place, and we are already progressing in that form, in that yoga. That's the point that's being mentioned. When person is Krishna conscious, has no opportunity to engage his senses in anything which is not for the purpose of Krishna. I told, right? No jnana, no yoga, no impersonalism, no sense gratification also. That is the meaning. Everything is for Krishna. So all the activities are for Krishna, and therefore he is already renounced from sense gratification. He is not renounced from serving something for Krishna. He is hankering to serve Krishna, but not renouncing that. But he is renouncing everything which is materially oriented to put him into this conditioned way of living. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is simultaneously a sannyasi and a yogi. That's clear, right? Earlier, the definition of a sannyasi means renunciation. Yogi means one who is connected to the Lord, or one is connecting to the Lord. So here, that person is renouncing gratification for himself, but he is connecting everything to the Lord when he is serving the Lord or satisfying the senses of the Lord. So that is automatically there. A person is actually satisfying that definition of a yogi by simply taking up bhakti marga. For that matter, even if you are not an accomplished bhakti exponent, even a particular simple act now today, for example, when we are sitting and trying to understand Bhagavad Gita, this is bhakti marga because we are trying to understand the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I am not accomplished devotee, bhakti, but I am right now doing this process, and that itself is actually an accomplishment. That's all. Nothing beyond that. You don't have to think, because that act and I told the other day, the means and the end are the same. When you become a perfect devotee, what will you do? You will simply sit like this and discuss about Krishna. Krishna says, Uttama. Who is Uttama? He's saying, right? Mahatma. He says the Mahatma will simply be taking pleasure in sitting and discussing about me, about the Supreme Lord and all his activities and all that. So we may not be a Uttama in an eternal state at this point in time, but we are still doing the same thing by trying to say that we are practicing Krishna consciousness. That means we are doing some activity which is considered Krishna consciousness, even if it is theoretically, but we are in that act, and that simple means all itself is actually the end itself. So this is very, very powerful if you really get it. That's why one has to be very intelligent to be able to understand this and then execute Krishna consciousness. So it's for the most intelligent person. Others may say, oh, this is very simple, it doesn't make sense, but it is very deep. So many times we talked last week about this raw mango devotee. That doesn't matter. People may, other people who are saying, they will say, oh yeah, what are you? You are trying to chant and you are attending classes, but you have all these problems. I know many times people say these things. And we will also see those things keep coming down as we grow. But that is nothing of any significance. Just ignore those things. Yes, I know. But I am getting there. Which none of you can get there, whatever process you are trying to do. It will take janma. I don't know whether you will even get to 1% of it. But here I am getting very fast there. That is very clear there. That confidence we have to have, because that is the kind of mercy that we have got taking up Krishna Bhakti. That's again, we have discussed this many times. This, we may be sometimes at a very neophyte stage, we may not be able to understand all these things. But if we get a glimpse of it, we should just cling on to that. Yes, this is what it is, and come what may, I will not leave it. That once that little bit of a determination, if you are able to have little bit of a what do you call, taste. That also sometimes a very difficult word to say. Taste for Krishna consciousness is very, very difficult to some people say, right? So, but at least somehow, or if we get inspired with someone, some devotee or someone who's actually slightly doing, if we are somehow able to connect, keep that thing going, how much ever we are pulled the other way around, it really makes a lot of difference. It takes us forward very, 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 very nicely. This is clear proof we can see in our life. It does not require 2 janmas to see. It can see right now, 5 years, 1 year, 2 year, half a year, 3 months, we can see this difference. The purpose of knowledge and of restraining the senses as prescribed in the jnana and yoga process is automatically served in Krishna consciousness. Now Prabhupada is also bringing, the other aspects of, some people do through the jnana yoga, or some people through the Ashtanga yoga. But all of those processes are already there. Even the knowledge with Jnana yoga, what are you trying to understand? You are trying to understand through knowledge, what is this position of us, and you are trying to become more and more, regulated. You are trying to become more and more, with knowledge, we try to restrain ourselves that, yes, this is wrong, this I should not do. But by simply doing bhakti, even without knowing all the philosophy, right? You can see many people who are illiterates. You give a lot of class, they don't get it. I mean, I don't know. Even if we give class, I'm not getting it. It's very difficult in one sense. But at least we can say, okay, I understood this language, and I think I understand what is being said. But a lot of us are ignorant in different ways. Otherwise, that's a different story. But there may be someone who may not even know to read or write. So what philosophy they can understand, they may not be able to understand, or they may be disinterested. But still, if they go to the temple and, be in association of devotees and perform some services there, that activity is as potent as, one who has got the knowledge and then simply getting the knowledge without doing. Much better than, one who is just illiterate, who is simply serving in the Lord. Maybe sweeping the temple compound, or lighting a lamp, or whatever, preparing for the class, or keeping the place neat, preparing for Abhishek, or trying to do some little service, give some material contribution to make something happen, or give some prasad. Whatever they do, they may do it for the Lord. That is very, very potent for taking them back to Godhead. So you don't have to be a lot of jnani to actually go back. But a jnani means he should have knowledge. Only then he can even get closer to thinking of going back. And again, see, the process is so simple. The means and the end are the same means. If you go deeper into it, it's so amazing. Like, you can be an illiterate but still go back to Godhead. But if you cannot be by jnana process, nobody can, unless you have to be, at least you should know some reading, whichever language in it is written. Otherwise then jnana is, jnana, it's not necessarily that you have to acquire that thing. So your senses should be able to have that sharpness in whatever way to acquire that knowledge. But here, if you are simply doing something for Krishna without understanding, also it is as potent as doing with full knowledge whatever other things other things means other processes. It's absolutely, this is so simple but very, very potent. If one is unable to give up the activities of a selfish nature, then jnana and yoga are of no avail, right? So this is, if the purpose of jnana and the purpose of yoga is to renounce. But if you are not able to renounce, to what avail is your jnana, right? So that means jnana is not, is theoretical, but there is no vijnana. Vijnana is practical application of it. If that is not there, what is the point of your knowledge? right? You do everything, you say all the formulas, but if you are not able to execute that on the ground, when you go into the laboratory and mix those two chemicals to bring out the third chemical, whatever it is, then your knowledge is of no use. You are not able to use that knowledge practically, right? You know, I don't know if you have to say, I have a lot of knowledge about making a AC. And, you know, will that knowledge make you cool when you are in a hot summer? You need to demonstrate it on the ground to be able to really take the benefit. The same way, if I have all these theoretical jnana, but if you are not, if you are still caught up in your, you know, in your intoxication and in your, you know, whatever other things, then how come that you can call yourself a jnani? You know, we see say so many times, many people, they quote left, right and center from various Vedas, and then they start a big argument to say, oh, no, you guys, you don't know anything. You simply keep quoting Bhagavad Gita. You know, I know this, I know that. So many things they will say, and they will say so complicatedly, and then, you know, you will not understand. And then if you really try to understand, does he understand? He also doesn't understand. I will tell about, I have told this, but these are all things which we can always, you know, recall. We were there doing book distribution in one of these temples here. So one fellow came and asked me, like, you know, is this book like the other, some other person, I don't want to name him, that, you know, will it be like his Bhagavad Gita Bhashya? I said, I have not read that book. I don't know what he has written out there. So I can tell you what is written here, so we can compare notes. Then you can see whether it is like that or not like this. Then, you know, I was very astonished to see that person speaking. Then he said, no, it is not. Bhagavad Gita is not so easy. You cannot really understand what is being written there. And I said, boss, it was a big shock for me. You know, you are saying, I want a book like that person has written. Okay, now tell me what that person has written. Did you, you know, something that you should have understood to tell me that. And you are saying, no, it cannot be understood. Then why are you thinking that person wrote a wonderful Bhashya for Bhagavad Gita? If you didn't even understand, how can you say it is wonderful? Then his definition was, no, it is all so complicated. That means his thinking is, if it is so complicated that I cannot understand, then that is wonderful. And he says, that is the Bhagavad Gita that I want. I said, no, then forget it. This Bhagavad Gita is so simple, everybody can understand, even a child can understand. If your definition of Bhagavad Gita is that one, then this does not equate to that. This is much simpler, you know, for you to understand this topic. So like this, people have different reasons to reject, you know. But point is, if that jnana is not going to serve you, then what is the use of having that jnana? That person, at least he thinks that writer is such a jnani, but that jnana is not translating into knowledge for the others. What is the point? And I'm sure that person who wrote also didn't understand. Otherwise, why was he so complicating it? You know, he didn't understand, so he was trying to concoct it, and he has put himself in so much knots that he is not able to unwind himself. Neither does he is in a position to give clarity to his readers. So this is the whole problem. If you don't know, we also see, right, sometimes we go around the thing because we don't know how to explain, right? You know, I will take one of the recent, this one, but this is not a very nice thing, but I will still tell you. That day I saw a video of Putin and his intelligence agency's head. So it is a YouTube video, I think. So there these fellows are all there, and this fellow is going to walk up to the stage, or where, not stage, to the mic to say something. And then he says, we are all in difficult times, something like that. Putin cuts him. Speak direct. So, and then that man tries to explain little more in a very jargon, so many things. Putin again cuts him and says, come to the point. Say it directly. Don't confuse. Are you confused? He's asking him like that. So the point is, if you don't know, or if you are not able to express, you will go around beating the bush. You will try to say this, but what are you trying to tell me? Please tell me. You know, if you see in corporate terms, many of you would have heard this thing, elevator pitch, right? What is an elevator pitch? So this is like this. you are you are a very, what do you call, let's say you are a very enthusiastic manager in the team, and then you have wonderful ideas in your head, you want to present something very nicely to make this project, whatever, to get a project sanctioned. Now you are getting into a lift, that's your thinking, you are thinking, and maybe for a break or whatever, you are just getting into the lift, and then the CEO of the company also gets into the lift at that point in time. Now you are, let's say, in the 8th floor or 7th floor, or whatever, 10th floor, and then you are coming down on the CEO, and you are coming down. Now your idea is to convey your message to that CEO, and the CEO, hey man, how are you doing, is asking. Then it's an opportunity here, both of you are stuck in that lift, you have that minute to talk to him. He's not going to give you more time beyond that, right? It's by Providence has made this arrangement with you. Therefore, the question is, you are supposed to immediately able to explain your point to that CEO within that few seconds when you will be together in that lift. The minute it gets down, he's going to say bye and go off, or he may not even say that, he will just nod and go, or sometimes he may smile and go, or he may not even bother, he will just walk away. Therefore, this elevator pitch, it is called. That means you should be able to convey your message so quickly in that matter. There you can't be going around beating the bush. So there you have to come to the precise point straight away, and then give all your later stories. If that precise point impresses him, he will say, you come and meet me tomorrow, fix up with my secretary and tell me the process, how you want to do it. But you need to be able to, but if you go and keep on talking all nonsense to him in that 1 second, then gone, he'll say, why is this guy wasting my time? So like that, the jnana means that you should be able to get the clarity of the matter. Then you can implement it. But if you know all of that, but you are not able to understand what it is in terms of practical application, then there is no point in having the jnana. That's what is explained here. A Krishna conscious person has no desire for any kind of self-enjoyment. He is always engaged for the enjoyment of the Supreme. One who has no information of the Supreme must therefore be engaged in self-satisfaction. That is simple, right? If you do not know what it is, you will only do what you have always been doing, right? So, like if you do not know a manufacturing process, then you will always keep doing what you think is the right way of doing it. But if you know what is the process, then you will immediately act towards that process of doing it. So if you have no information of the Supreme, that's what the whole world is basically doing that way. To being born in, in India is such a huge blessing. If you really think, I have walked down the roads of, I don't know, some parts of China, Hong Kong, actually people have no conception of soul, no conception of spiritual world, nothing. Every talk, everything is all about like, how can I live nicely in this world? That's all. When you go down those streets, when you see people, you suddenly feel, my God, what amount of information that we have, which these people are poor fellows don't have access to. If you are born in India, it's something which we see, right? When you go and see these people, they can only think it's not their fault for whatever reason. I feel sorry that they don't have the access to this knowledge, right? They think the body is what it is. We live a nice life, maybe nice life, decent life, moral life. All that people know, but they do not know beyond that. What is this? Why am I here? What is the purpose of our life? They don't know. Only in India that knowledge was given, and by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, this book is there all over the world, and in all languages it is there. Today we are talking about Ukraine. I saw a very nice, very mature 1-minute video by a devotee from Ukraine. He's facing the soldiers, right? He's saying, he's very calm, he's very relaxed. He's saying, and he smiles. I don't know, I will share that in Krishna Garden group, and those who are not in the group, I will share it with you. So how mature he was in his dealing. He's not an Indian, he's an Ukrainian. Very nice, and this one. And then there was another case also, one devotee, later I saw another message, said one of the devotee, Ukrainian devotee, who was shot in the arm and the chest. and then his wife was caring for him. It's in a village, and that village is under attack right now. Maybe they are on the path to Kiev or whatever, I don't know. And then the devotees there are saying, all of the rest of the world, please pray for this devotee's recovery. You know, see, this is all at that point in time. We can't think like that. But here, Prabhupada's mercy has made this whole world Krishna conscious, and everybody who don't have access to this, what this Bharata Varsha has, he has taken it to every door, nook and corner. Some village in Ukraine, and those people are able to do it. Why? There's even some aborigines in Africa. They are actually having this, Bhagavad Gita knowledge given by Srila Prabhupada. So that's such huge blessing that Srila Prabhupada has done, and maybe that's why it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said everyone in India, Bharata Varsha, they should all go and give these fruits to everyone all over the world. This was his message very clearly. Anyone born in India, it is his duty to go and give this message to everyone. So in India itself, we are losing this, so we are preaching here. And also, of course, not that we should not preach elsewhere. We should preach everywhere. Guru Maharaj keeps saying, right? Use all sorts of media to reach out to people. And it is happening. We see sometimes, I don't know, now we are in YouTube. I think not much hits are happening in YouTube. Facebook had many hits. I have had many people commenting from Africa and all saying, oh, nice kirtan, nice class, like that. But somehow, the idea is it should reach out to people so that they can see, and they should be able to get benefit from whatever knowledge that Srila Prabhupada has given from our Bhagavad Gita. So if you don't have the information, naturally, there's something wrong with them. I don't know, I am doing what I know what it is, right? There's nothing wrong with them. Therefore, we have to be, Prabhupada was merciful. I'm not saying we have to be merciful. We can be a messenger of Srila Prabhupada and convey that mercy to everybody else. Be engaged in self-satisfaction because no one can stand on the platform of inactivity, right? That means if you don't know, you will do what you know, because you cannot be inactive. Simply, right? You will be doing something, whether it is right or wrong, you will be doing, because that is the nature of the soul. This soul is actually very, can never be silent even for a minute, even for a second. It is always active. So if you don't know the right thing, you will be doing the wrong thing. It's natural. Therefore, it is mentioned because no one can stand on the platform of inactivity. And if you don't know, you will do the wrong things. Nothing surprising here. All purposes are perfectly served by the practice of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, the idea is, if we are able to take up to Krishna consciousness, knowingly, unknowingly, we will be doing the right things. And our getting situated in our original constitution is guaranteed. Knowingly, unknowingly. Again, underline that word unknowingly also. That is why, we are trying to go for, Nagar Sankirtan. We are trying to, whatever we are trying to go and reach out to people elsewhere. Somehow, if they come to know about it, then their life will be fulfilled. Their mission of their life will be fulfilled. This is the mood of Srila Prabhupada. We are reading Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita in the evenings now every day. You can see Prabhupada will not even have, he was like, he spent 40,000 rupees to establish a business in 1950. 40,000 rupees. I was trying to calculate how many crores it is in today's context. 40,000 rupees in 1950s. And he started a new business because the old one was not doing well. Then he said he invested 40,000 rupees. Just imagine, so much of money. But the same Prabhupada, maybe a few years down the line, he was living like he took Vanaprastha. Means he was forced to move out. He was not seeing any greatness in this business that he's doing. Neither was the family helpful. So he sort of lost it, that family life. Then he was just wandering around. He was in Jhansi. And then there also, he wanted to start something called a League of Devotees. League of Devotees he started, and then that also politics. 1950s, the wife of the governor, she laid her eyes on the property which Prabhupada was using and preaching, and then they said, this is most good for the Mahila, whatever that Mahila, no, the women's clubs. They say Mahila, no, that's what, what is the word, the Mahila Samiti, Mahila Samiti, whatever like that. So she said, I want this place, this is the most perfectly suited for this activity, and Prabhupada was thrown out of that place. And he didn't want to clash with all these powerful things. He was saying, I was doing all these things in my material life, why I should again do this, so let me get out. So he left there. And then he was he was an editor for a magazine called Sajjana Toshani. So he was editing that at the time. The minute that point came about, like, you be the editor and publish this magazine, Prabhupada immediately thought big. He was saying, this magazine should become the kind of circulation like the Illustrated Weekly. In 1950s, this is. He had a grand vision, and this printing fascinated him. He says, this is Brigat Mridanga. Like, I write here sitting in one corner. Millions of people can get to see this, and it's like I am talking to them one-on-one. Just imagine Prabhupada's curiosity and his vision that, I want to change this entire world. And he was saying, I will do it in a grand scale. The paper should be like that Illustrated Weekly. This Sajjana Toshani magazine, it should be like that. He was very fascinated. And he was saying, I want to go and meet all the big fellows. And whomever he met, he was never scared of anybody. He will write to the President of India only. Like that, all the big fellows. And he will question the root of what their thinking is. He will directly strike at the root and say, this is all nonsense what you guys are doing. Very strong. And he will, in that process, he was saying, I want to go and make this circulation of this magazine very nicely. So he was going and saying, I want to go and meet all these fellows. But my dhoti is so bad, it is torn all over. So please, he will ask the Mata head, please get me 2 dhotis so that, I can go and meet all these fellows to make what you call the subscription, magazine subscription. Just imagine Prabhupada, one who spent 40,000 rupees in 1950, but few years down the line, he didn't have any money at his disposal. But he was not bothered about any of those things. He was humble enough to say, please give me, I want to do this. And when they didn't oblige in many aspects, he was like, hey, you know who I am? I'm such a great personality, you guys. He was trying to still serve very humbly. Like, he didn't think that I am a great man or anything. He was saying, okay, this is, I have to serve the Lord in some form and shape. I think I will serve it like that. And he accepted the authority, whoever was leading the Mata. So many things like this is amazing. And who else to learn all these things from Prabhupada's personal example? So idea again is, one has to take up Krishna consciousness, and none other than Prabhupada himself came and gave this to us. And it's very simple for us to simply take this. We don't have to go, without dhoti or whatever, right? It's we can simply eat prasadam, participate in kirtan, read Prabhupada books or Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. Do whatever is comfortable within our nice, comfortable situation, but still we can also go back to Godhead. That is the very powerful mercy given by Srila Prabhupada. So I will conclude here. If there are any comments, questions, most welcome. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Thanks for wonderful clarity on jnana, yoga, Krishna consciousness. So ultimately, one person could come to Krishna consciousness to even get these two also. Yoga, if a person want to attain Krishna consciousness, is the solution. Or if a person should be a sannyasi, the renounced, everything, should culminate with Krishna consciousness. Thanks for the clarity and detailed explanation on this point. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. It's a very interesting class, and like Padmanabha Prabhu said, very wonderful with all this in depth, especially saying that Krishna consciousness is simple yet deep and potent. So, like others might think it to be very simple and just ignore it, whereas the way it is so simple yet so powerful and potent, and like you said, deep. There is no end to it. One can just go on. Um, yeah, and we can do our bit, whatever we can, little bit or whatever we can, and that would be good enough um, for our progress in going back home, back to God. And yeah. Thanks, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thanks for sharing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Prabhu, you spoke about that we are marginal energies, right? And superior energy is the Lord, Supreme Lord. There is inferior energy. Correct? What is inferior energy, Prabhu?
So when I said the what do you call the internal energy, that is the Lord, and also some of his what do you call the spiritual side of the Lord. That means the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha, all of that is part of the internal energy. Okay, not just the Lord. Whatever is part of the spiritual world, everything is actually the internal energy of the Lord. Then we are marginal. Then your asked question is, what is the inferior energy? So inferior energy means that is the external inferior energy or the external energy. Internal, I said, this is external or inferior energy, which is basically the material world. Like all the planetary systems and everything which is related inside the planetary system. It could also be abstract like intelligence, mind, intelligence, or anything related, all the whatever, some gunas that we have, all of that is part of the inferior energy.
I mean, in the material world, we are in Krishna consciousness. We are not in inferior energy.
Yes, that's the point which I was trying to make. Very clearly you have understood. That means you can be here, but you are not here. Very confusing, right? Let's say there is a prison house, right? Prison house means you have to have many cells where the criminals are all inside there. Now, generally inside a prison house, a criminal is supposed to be there, right? Inside a cell particularly. But inside a particular cell, assuming there is a policeman who's inside there, maybe, or someone who's cleaning that cell, he's inside. Now, that person is also inside the jail only, right? But he's not inside the jail, technically. Like this, you can be here, but you are not in the inferior energy of Krishna because you are already in the platform of Vaikuntha. Your body is here. That's okay. Body, we said, is not very important. Your consciousness is in Vaikuntha. Therefore, you are actually in the internal potency of that. That's why I said, see, the devotees who are really advanced, they are all the time there. But someone like me, I may be there temporarily. But for example, right now we are talking about Krishna and we are all focused. We are trying to understand Gita. Our mind is not elsewhere. But in this time, we are actually there in that Vaikuntha. You see? And when you are fully Krishna conscious, what will you be doing if someone has asked? That also you are going to be doing the same thing. Only thing is we are doing now for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, like that. There you will be Satata Chintayan Toma. You are all the time thinking of the Supreme Personality of God. So that's the difference. But whatever extent you are doing, you are to that extent completely spiritual.
Okay. The thing is, if you are inferior also, if you are in Krishna consciousness, that superior energy will take care.
Yes, you are not inferior, you are marginal, but you are associating with inferior energy.
With inferior energy. Yeah.
But at the same time, you have got the capacity to associate with the internal energy also, superior energy also. That's why you are middle. Tata means marginal. Margin means, right, you are in, like they say on a wall, cat on a wall, right? You can, the cat can jump on this side of the wall or that side of the wall. So we are that nature who are just sitting there and trying to be mostly on the material side of the wall. But there are many souls similar like us, all characters like this, but they are in the other side, which is on the superior side of the Lord. Therefore, we are like marginal. We can go both sides.
Okay.
The jivas, basically. When we say we, not simply humans, all the living entities in this material world.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Understood, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Very lovely session, especially my limited knowledge again. I really love the fact or the session where you were talking about in Krishna consciousness you really don't renounce anything, right? When you simple, maybe an example of saying when you're eating also, right? You've offered it to God, it becomes holy and that becomes prasada.
Yes.
Right. So when you're working, you're really doing seva if you have that kind of a mentality, and you can enjoy that as well. So when you can enjoy food, you can also enjoy work in the same kind of an attitude, right? And you're not really renouncing anything. So absolutely enjoy what you're doing when you offer it to the Lord. So that's the way I saw it, but really love the session. Thank you very much.
No, that is the way. That is the most important thing. Basically, some people think, this is something which is theoretical. No. What you are saying, practically, how does it apply to me? Right? That's what we are here for, trying to understand and learn. And like you said, can I make this work dovetailed for Krishna? So that means you are working naturally. Even earlier you are working, even now you are working. But your motive now will be mentally, at least, that I am not doing this for myself, I am doing this for Krishna. See, initially a thought, then it becomes action. Means as we practice this process, right, you will see the symptoms, how you are. See, anything like when I say, when you think, I have given this example earlier also, when you have a car and someone hits that car, you immediately feel so much rajas, right? You feel so anger, so much this one. But assuming it is someone else's car which got hit, you will of course feel, oh, nice car got hit. But will you be having so much of pain like when it hit your car? No. Like this, when everything you are doing for Krishna, not that I am happy that Krishna's car is hit, but the point is, I am doing this for Krishna. So the good or bad is also with Krishna, right? Like Prabhupada was never anxious. While he is doing this for Krishna, there were failures. He was anxious, but he was also not anxious. That's the beauty of it. Because I am anxious because Krishna's thing is not happening. But personally, I am not feeling it is my failure. You see, when it associates with you, all your blood pressure, everything goes up. But when you associate with Krishna, you feel the pain, but you don't feel that blood pressure coming to you. It's very subtle, but you will know this by experience. That anxiety will be there, that pain for Krishna will be there, but that pain will not affect your body. Like that, and you'll, so sometimes when you do something, even personally, if you have that, you will not feel that bliss. But when we have done it for Krishna, you will feel so much bliss, which is much more than when I personally got it. Those things we can practically apply in our life. So that's nice. Because not all of us may be at the highest level of, completely dovetailed, completely fixed up, whatever, either preaching full time or dedicating our life in the temple, or may not be. But within my environment, how can I practice Krishna consciousness and how can I progress?
Thanks. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Nice. Thanks. Okay, so
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, thank you for the wonderful class and all the practical, realizations. So, as you were talking about this point about somebody else's car, something similar happened with me, in past 1 or 2 months.
Hmm.
So these are some things, which actually it's not something we just read, something which we need to apply,
Hmm.
and whatever realizations we are taking from this class, we need to, ponder on them, that how and where we are. So, even though we are trying to progress in Krishna consciousness, some of these things, like your material possessions and, that attachment with them, we need to, take it from that perspective,
Yes.
which you just,
Doubt-ai,
right? So,
doubt-ai.
yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
So, thank you for the wonderful session.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Guru Maharaj, what do you call? All glories to Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Okay. So thank you all for joining and patiently listening. We will meet again next week. Of course, during the week we do have our reading and chanting sessions. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. On the YouTube
Hare Krishna.
devotees, thank you very much.